All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is David Emmerman. I'm the Assistant Chief of the Division of Surface Water at Ohio EPA. I'm going to thank you all for attending today's webinar. We hope you find today's presentation to be helpful as you formulate and finalize your comments for the early stakeholder outreach portion of our rulemaking process. And we look forward to future public involvement as we continue this important rulemaking. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to TTL.
This presentation has been prepared to review three stream mitigation methods that are under consideration for the state of Ohio for implementation as a new rule within the Ohio Administrative Code. This presentation will review the early stakeholder outreach process and the three mitigation methods that are under consideration, including the stream quantification tool, the stream and wetland valuation metric, and the 2010 stream mitigation proposal. The three above methods were brought up during pre-early stakeholder outreach meetings. However, Ohio EPA is also open to considering other methods and options. This presentation has been prepared as part of the early stakeholder outreach rulemaking process, which has begun for two separate rule packages, the 401 water quality certifications and the wetland water quality standards rules. Effective July 21st, 2022, House Bill 175 requires any wetland, stream, or lake mitigation standards, guidance, guidelines, and criteria used in Section 401 water quality certification process to be in the rule after July 21st, 2024. A new rule is being created within the Ohio Administrative Code under Chapter 3745-32-04 to establish stream mitigation requirements and performance standards for impacts to perennial and intermittent streams covered under Section 401 water quality certification. This brings us to the first method of determining stream mitigation we will be discussing today, the Stream Quantification Tool, or SQT. What is the Stream Quantification Tool? The Stream Quantification Tool is a calculator able to quantify differences between an existing stream condition and a proposed stream condition. This numerical difference is known as functional lift or functional loss, and can be used to determine stream credits as defined by the 2008 Federal Mitigation Rule. The SQT has also been configured as a debit calculator, capable of calculating functional loss from common development activities, such as culverts, impoundments, and piping. When used together, the SQT and debit calculator can provide certainty that debits are being adequately offset by function-based credits. The Stream Quantification Tool was developed by Stream Mechanics and Will Harmon. First implemented by North Carolina, it has since been implemented at least in part by 8 other states. The SQT uses a 0 to 1 scoring methodology, breaking down the scoring categories into not functioning, functioning at risk, and functioning. To measure functional change at a reach, users enter field-collected and modeled data into the SQT. The SQT calculates the difference between a stream reach's existing condition score and that same reach's proposed condition score. That score is multiplied by the reach's total length or area to generate a functional foot score. Goals of the Stream Quantification Tool. Quantify changes between an existing stream condition and a proposed stream condition. Link restoration activities to changes in stream function. Link restoration goals to restoration potential. Incentivize high-quality stream mitigation, and assist with site selection. The stream quantification tool is a tool which assigns a functional-based score to a project stream. Therefore, it is built upon a framework of stream functionality known as the stream functions pyramid. This pyramid is a way of understanding the different functions a stream can perform. Hydrology, hydraulic, geomorphology, physicochemical, and biology are the steps of the pyramid. The pyramid framework is a way of understanding restoration potential for a project stream. Typically, in order to achieve functional lift in a given category, all of the categories beneath it on the pyramid must be functioning properly. Most restoration projects target exclusively the first 3 levels of the pyramid. The SQT, along with the pyramid framework, incentivizes higher quality restoration by assigning value to the higher levels of the pyramid. There are 8 components of the stream quantification tool. An overview of each of these components will be reviewed on the following slides. The project assessment form is where you identify your project stream and project goals. It is very important to have goals which are aligned with the levels of the stream functions pyramid. For example, if your project goal is to reintroduce a species of fish to a project stream, then you as a practitioner need to understand that levels 1 through 4 of the pyramid will have to be rated as functioning in order to succeed at restoring biology. The catchment assessment form. This form is a subjective rating system which helps the practitioner understand the restoration potential of a given reach. There are 12 categories, each of which can be rated poor, fair, or good. Each category has a description of the difference between poor, fair, and good. However, it is the job of the rater to then take this information and decide on an overall watershed condition of poor, fair, or good. This rater freedom is to allow for situations where a stream can have a poor rating in a certain category, but still have a good restoration potential. Conversely, there are situations where a single category can be so bad that it undermines the rest of the watershed condition, regardless of the other parameters. This table is taken from the North Carolina SQT User Manual. The results from the watershed condition score can be compared to the restoration potential within this table to determine a project's overall restoration potential. The parameter selection form. The bulk of the SQT is a real-world assessment of certain parameters in order to determine a condition score for the project stream. This table is used to determine which parameters will be necessary to evaluate in order for the tool to return an accurate score. The parameters are broken down along the lines of the stream functions pyramid, levels 1 through 5. A majority of the level 1 to 3 assessments are necessary for most projects. Physicochemical and biology parameters are typically reserved for projects that endeavor to show functional lift in levels 4 and 5 of the pyramid, or in the case of assessing DEVITs, in projects that have resulted in the loss of physicochemical or biological function. Parameter selection rules. The same parameters must be evaluated for existing and proposed conditions. The practitioner must include certain parameters and measurement methods. Use the parameter selection guide to add other parameters based on specific scenarios and environments. The quantification tool. These screenshots are taken from the North Carolina Stream Quantification Tool spreadsheet. Each state has a slightly different tool based upon a regionalization process. User inputs are shaded in dark gray. Light gray values are selected from pull-down menus. It is very important to have accurate information entered into the Reach Information and Reference Standards Stratification table within the tool. This information will be used by the tool to set the performance standards that parameter scores will be compared against. The function-based parameter summary and report card will be entered into the tool in the following sections. This section is where the field values for evaluated parameters are entered. Each parameter has a listed measurement method. it is important to use the units listed in the measurement method or the SQT manual to ensure the tool is returning accurate information. After filling in the existing condition assessment, a user can complete a second assessment on the proposed condition. Here, you can estimate which parameters will improve or be impacted by the project. Scoring is achieved by taking your measurement scores and averaging them against performance standards. Performance standards are a series of reference curves which are developed prior to a tool's implementation. Each measurement score is averaged against a performance standard to create a parameter score. The parameter scores are then averaged to create functional category scores. Category scores are then multiplied by 0.2 and summed to create an overall score. Based upon the parameter selection done prior to scoring, there is a maximum potential score. Maximum score through level 3 of geomorphology would be 0.6. Maximum score through level 4 would be 0.8. And maximum score through level 5 is a total score 1.0. Here are the scoring parameters broken down into their functional categories. Streams or parameters with a score of less than 0.3 are rated as not functioning. Streams or parameters with a score between 0.3 and 0.7 are rated as functioning at risk. And streams or parameters with a score greater than 0.7 are rated as functioning. The stream quantification tool can be used to calculate functional lift resulting from restoration activities and quantify that value in a unit of functional feet. The stream quantification tool can also be used to calculate functional loss resulting from an impact to a stream, such as filling, culverting, or general erosion. Functional loss can be calculated in different ways. The easiest way is to assume an existing condition value of 1 and a proposed condition value of 0 for the project stream. This method is appropriate for most projects, which results in a total loss of function to a project stream. Another method of calculating functional loss would be to compare scores using the stream quantification tool. This requires users have taken existing condition scores prior to impact. The final method is to use the functional loss tool you see pictured here. The functional loss tool works by assigning an impact severity tier to an activity. These tiers are then assigned to a multiplier, which was multiplied by an existing condition score to give a proposed condition score. Whichever method the user chooses, they will be left with two scores, an existing and a proposed. These scores can now be used to calculate functional loss. This slide displays the functional loss summary. The scores from the user's functional loss assessment can now be multiplied by the project's length to give a functional foot score. In the example seen here, 200 feet of stream is impacted as a result of the project. However, when we assess the project based upon loss of function, we see that the stream has lost 220 feet of equivalent stream function. So let's say as practitioners, we wanted to develop a project to mitigate for the impacts caused by the previous example. Here we have a stream with an existing condition score of 0.2. It is proposed to raise the condition score by restoring the reach, as well as adding length to a stream. In this example, 200 feet of stream are proposed to be restored. This restoration is also proposed to result in a 0.3 raise in condition score. When this lift in function is taken into account, the project can be shown to result in a 220-foot gain in functional feet, as opposed to only taking the length into account. This means that the project would be a one-to-one replacement for the loss of function incurred as a result of the previous example. Performance standards are provided within the SQT for components of each functional category of the stream functions pyramid as reference data. This slide shows only 3 of the available 56 performance standards. Every evaluated parameter is compared against one of these performance standards in order to calculate the parameter condition score. The development of these standards is one of the main tasks needed for the regionalization of the SQT. Monitoring data can also be entered into the stream quantification tool. Under the workbook, there are tabs for monitoring data, which contain additional stream quantification tool spreadsheets. Monitoring is achieved by taking the existing condition score of a project reach over a number of years. These scores can be compared to the original existing condition score to grade a project's actual functional lift. Monitoring data shown in the previous slide will populate the tables shown here automatically. This is part of the stream quantification tool that can chart a project's progress by calculating the lift in functional feet each year post-construction. The SQT in Ohio would replace the standard credit and debit system that has been used in the past with functional loss and functional lift. If this method were chosen, the SQT would be regionalized or tailored for use in Ohio, and a technical team would meet and decide which components to include in the Ohio version. Stream Mechanics offers assistance with the regionalization process.
The second tool that we are going to be discussing is the Stream and Wetland Valuation Metric, also known as SWVM. SWVM is a suitable metric to be used to assess and describe the aquatic resource types that will be restored, established, enhanced, and/or preserved by the mitigation bank, in lieu fee project, and permittee responsible either on-site or off-site. The development of this tool was created and currently used in West Virginia. Overall, SWVM is a tool utilized to synthesize correlations derived from multiple established individual assessment methodologies. The SWVM has been developed into a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, which will require project and/or site-specific data. SWVM was created by the United States Army Corps of Engineers Interagency Review Team, or the IRT. The IRT consisted of the United States Army Corps of Engineers Huntington and Pittsburgh District, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resource Conservation Service, the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection, and West Virginia Division of Natural Resources. The primary role of the IRT is to facilitate and establish of mitigation banks and/or in lieu fee programs. The IRT will review draft proposals, instruments, and other documents and provides comments to the United States Army Corps of Engineers. The IRT utilized what was called the best available science to create SWVM. What is best available science? While the best available science is all of the best information currently available that is derived from a valid scientific process relating to the stream and its metrics. The best available science used, but is not limited to, the hydrogeomorphic HGM approach, the US EPA Rapid Bioassessment Protocols, RBPs for ratable streams, US EPA Stream Condition Index, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Research and Development Center's Rapid Watershed Assessment, and the Clean Water Act Section 404 Final Rule on Compensatory Mitigation. This is a flowchart displaying the following rules of the 2008 Final Rule on Mitigation that the IRT used to create SWVM. This is what led to the establishment and management that the mitigation banks and in lieu fee programs will utilize. The flowchart is broken down into two different routes. You can follow the in lieu fee portion or the mitigation portion. This is a very helpful chart to follow along, and I would take time after this presentation to go back and view this flowchart to get a better understanding. Now it is time to discuss Ohio's history with SWVM. As stated previously, SWVM was originally created and is fully utilized within the state of West Virginia. But on October 20th of 2017, a joint public notice was distributed on behalf of the United States Army Corps of Engineers and the Ohio Interagency Review Team regarding the implementation of the hydrogeomorphic approach and the stream valuation metric, SWVM, for application within the state of Ohio. Impacts and mitigation will be evaluated via debit-credit approach. All forms of mitigation will no longer assess impacts for mitigation in the context of ratios or linear feet, where the HGM and/or the Ohio SWVM are applicable. But instead, impacts and mitigation will be evaluated in the context of credit and debit units provided by the HGM and the Ohio SWVM where applicable. It is to be noted that Ohio's version only included stream components. There was only a discussion to incorporate wetlands into the valuation metric after the adoption of the stream metric. On August 3rd of 2020, and with the expiration date being August 4th of 2025, a joint public notice was distributed on behalf of the United States Army Corps of Engineers. The purpose of this public notice is to advise the interested stakeholders on the current status of the reevaluation, modification, and the implementation of the Ohio Stream and Wetland Valuation Metric. Until further notice, the guidelines for stream mitigation banking and in lieu fee programs in Ohio shall be utilized for the purpose of calculating stream mitigation requirements. SWVM is currently not being used within the state of Ohio in the year of 2022. SWVM components. The West Virginia Stream and Wetland Valuation Metric is an example of a more complex table approach that incorporates assessment methodologies. For the state of Ohio, again, streams were only incorporated. The SWVM includes direct measures of water quality and biological condition in the debit and credit calculations. The methodology synthesizes multiple established assessment methodologies to correlate impacts with proposed mitigation projects. The methodology requires multiple inputs, including project-specific data, stream mitigation, a broad spectrum of physical and chemical and biological indicators, and other factors, including temporal loss and mitigation site protection. The individual assessments are used to indicate the physical, chemical, and biological integrity of the site. SWVM then will generate an index score ranging from 0 being poor to 1 being the best condition. That is multiplied by the linear feet to result in a unit score. Unit scores are calculated for the impact site, the mitigation site existing condition, the mitigation site projected upon completion, and the mitigation site projected at maturity. The unit score for the impact site must be less than or equal to the score for the mitigation project at maturity to adequately offset proposed impacts. And it also provides overall guidance for impact and stream mitigation projects. Areas of projected functional lift will be visible at a glance. Functional lift in SWVM is the same functional lift information that was discussed previously in the SQT presentation. SWVM covers 4 baseline components for streams. The first component is the hydrogeomorphic HGM approach, and this looks at the hydrology, biogeochemical cycling, and the habitat of streams. The HGM approach is not a debit and credit system, but is a rapid assessment that can be repeatable year-round. The second portion is the physical component, and this will utilize the listed assessments to evaluate the stream's physical proportion of the stream. The third component is the chemical baseline. This component indicates the chemical condition for water quality of the stream. The last baseline component is biological. Biological conditions of the stream are examined by collecting measurements from the Headwater Microinvertebrate Field Evaluation Index, HMFEI, the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency's Microinvertebrate Community Index, or the ICI. Each of these 4 parameters make up 33% of the total. Each 4 sections will have a scoring system scaled from 0 to which is poor, and to 1, which is the best. In order to fully complete SWVM correctly, The stream and wetland valuation metric Excel spreadsheet must be utilized. The Ohio SWVM is utilized to analyze stream baseline conditions while also tracking the progression of any projected physical, chemical, and/or biological functional lift achieved through mitigation. The Ohio SWVM is applicable for all weightable stream classes. The Ohio SWVM utilizes data input to generate an index score, which is then multiplied by the linear feet to result in a unit score. The Ohio SWVM is composed of 4 tabs, including the following: Instructions, Stream Parts 1 and 2, Stream Parts 3 through 6, and the Multiple Site Unit Comparison tab. The Ohio SWVM has been designed to indicate where data entry is required. The first tab is the Instructions tab. This is a 3-page document that makes up the instructions for each section of SWVM. The instructions contain discussions and information for what each cell needs and explains how to gather that information. For Stream Parts 1 and 2, red portions of the document are the information needed to be provided by the applicant and/or consultants. There are several columns grayed out and will remain grayed out until a mitigation method is selected if mitigation is appropriate. The first information that is needed is the impact existing condition, or the debit. This column establishes conditions of the proposed impact site. When using this metric to only assess impacts, no mitigation length should be entered and no data is necessary. Part 1 contains the 4 components: the HGM, physical, chemical, and biological indicators. It is to be noted that any HGM data forms should accompany the submittal of the SWVM assessments. The second is the physical condition of the stream that will need to be filled out by applying the appropriate physical assessment. This part of the metric allows the user to choose the appropriate physical assessment. Again, it is to be noted that any data forms filled out for the physical assessment should be attached to the final SWVM submission. Third, indicate the chemical condition or the water quality of the stream by inputting the values for the specific conductivity, pH, and dissolved oxygen collected in the field. This portion of Part 1 shall be completed for weightable, perennial, and intermittent stream classification. In the event data for these fields are not collected, the default value of 1 should be entered. For femoral stream classifications, no data is required. Again, attach all data sheets to the final SWVM. Lastly, the biological indicator condition of the stream should be collected by inputting the data upon the Headwater Microinvertebrate Field Evaluation Index and/or the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency Microinvertebrate Community Index where applicable. Again, if no data is collected, default values may be utilized. It is important to know the type of mitigation that will be used within the stream or within the stream project. There are 4 different mitigation forms. You can select either restoration, enhancement, establishment, or preservation. With the selection of each different mitigation option, more or less information will be required. If you are choosing the enhancement mitigation, only column number 1, the impact existing condition debit, and column number 2, mitigation existing condition baseline or credit, will be needed to be completed to produce a total index and unit score. The other 3 columns will remain grayed out. If you're selecting enhancement, establishment, or preservation, all 5 columns will be needed to be completed to fully produce a total index and unit score. Stream parts 3 through 6 will look at impact factors, will compare unit scores and project balances, and will look at mitigation considerations. Part 3 includes impact factors including temporal loss, construction, temporal loss maturity, and long-term protection. Part 4 includes impact to unit score, conversion, and no data entry is required. This section displays the final index score, which is utilized to generate a final debit score. Part 5 is a comparison of unit scores and projected balance, Again, no data entry is required. This part depicts the final score, debit, in comparison with the mitigation existing baseline credit. The mitigation projects at 5 years credit, mitigation projected at 10 years credit, and the mitigation projected at maturity credit. SWVM utilizes functional lift. Functional lift is the same definition as in the SQT presentation. As a reminder, functional lift is again defined as the balance between the mitigation existing condition baseline and the mitigation projected at maturity or credit. The balance of the mitigation projected at maturity shall be equal to or greater than the final unit score debit to adequately offset the proposed impacts and be compliant with the national policy of no net loss. Lastly, Part 6 is the mitigation requirements and/or considerations. This is the extent of the stream restorations that might be presented for this project. Displayed on this slide is the chart that shows temporal loss with construction. Temporal loss is a period between impact and the completion of mitigation. It compares the amount of years and the percentage of additional mitigation added to the total debit. Temporal loss maturity is a period between mitigation completion and maturity. This section of the chart is broken down into 1 to 19 years. Each section shows percentage of additional mitigation that will be added to the total debit within the SWVM calculation. The last two charts show both the extent of stream restoration and the extended buffer zone with incentives. Both show outcomes with the level of stream restoration and the buffer zone widths. Each percentage listed will be multiplied by the projected lift and added to the total. All sections will be self-populating after you initially enter in the data. Extent of restoration. Restoration incentive levels are very important to SWVM. The first table shows that restoration levels range from level 1 to level 3 for enhancement mitigation only. Level 1 is a full extent channel habitat restoration, floodplain restoration, and bank stability. This involves large-scale perennial and intermittent streams, the full extent and channel restoration, based on the Rosgen geomorphic channel design and the 53 variables. You will need to provide a plan with the hydrologic geometric dimensions, patterns, and profiles. Level 2 is the significant floodplain reestablishment not at original, large-scale to moderately sized perennial intermittent streams and the full extent of channel restoration, which will include habitat improvement and bank stabilization. The plan profiles must show dimensions, patterns, and profile work. Level 3 is the incentive channel restoration, habitat restoration, and bank stability for all stream types. Again, the plan profiles must show dimensions, pattern, and profile work. The second table is the 3 activity levels to choose from, and only one can be selected. Please reference the guidelines for stream and mitigation banking and in-lieu fee programs in Ohio to determine the level to select. Now we are going to be looking at an example of enhancement mitigation that is selected through SWVM. SWVM results are derived from mitigation options selected, if mitigation is necessary. This photo shows the final results of SWVM that was run using an example of an intermittent stream being impacted by 50 linear feet and choosing the enhancement form of mitigation. The extent of stream restoration was chosen at activity level 1, and the final impact unit yield was 40.85, which results in the final mitigation unit yield being 4.2075 credits. Now, in comparison to the previous slide, we are looking at SWVM results using the preservation mitigation option. We are again looking at impacting 50 linear feet of an intermittent stream and choosing the preservation mitigation form. Stream preservation is used for special aquatic sites, waters exhibiting functional importance, or waters under threat and pressures. When SWVM calculates the stream index, it correlates with a ratio incentive listed on the slide. The final mitigation unit field for this example is 5.980 credits, and it utilized the 1:16 ratio incentive. The final unit factor of SWVM. The Ohio SWVM utilizes data input to generate an index score, which is multiplied by the linear feet to result in a unit score. The SWVM tool utilizes mitigation, which is termed credits, and impact, which is termed debits. The final unit score, or debit, is then self-calculated by the SWVM Excel spreadsheet to provide a final mitigation unit yield and credits. The final unit factor in SWVM is the mitigation unit yield, or the appropriate amount of credits needed. Now, the last tab in the SWVM Excel spreadsheet is again the multiple stream site unit comparison tab. When assessing multiple reaches of streams, stream parts 3 through 6 should be copied and pasted into this table. This will allow for a running tally of the debits and credits for multiple reaches of streams. What does SWVM accomplish? The SWVM tool will be used by a permit applicant to evaluate the amount of function and value lost when aquatic resources are impacted. It will also be utilized as the basis for evaluating the magnitude of improvements associated with any mitigation projects.
The third and final stream mitigation method that is being presented today is the proposed 2010 Stream Mitigation Protocol for the state of Ohio, referred to as the 2010 proposal. This method was published as a draft rule for review in 2010 for compensatory stream mitigation in the state of Ohio. It is a function-based strategy that reflects the tiered beneficial uses protected by the Ohio Water Quality Standard since 2002. It breaks down and tiers aquatic life uses. This is a credit-debit system patterned after a protocol developed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Savannah District. Similar approaches have been adopted and utilized by several Army Corps districts and states throughout the country. This draft protocol does not yet contain worksheets for automated calculations. Useful tools for conducting calculations and summarizing data would be developed for final implementation of this protocol. There are 4 mitigation categories that are defined and serve as the basis for the development of the tiered mitigation goals and requirements. Category 1 being the lowest quality streams and Category 4 being the highest. These categories will all be broken down and explained in more detail over the following slides. The category of the impacted stream is determined by the applicant based off of the stream use designation defined in the State of Ohio Water Quality Standards. The stream use designations are defined and assigned within the State of Ohio Water Quality Standards within the Ohio Administrative Code, Chapter 3745-1. Streams that are not listed would need to have a use attainability analysis completed by the applicant to then assign the beneficial life use and appropriate mitigation category. An attainability analysis is a structured scientific assessment of the factors affecting the attainment, which would include physical, chemical, biological, and economic factors. Mitigation Category 1 includes streams that are limited quality waters and have no potential to meet general high quality waters. These streams typically have ephemeral flow or are constructed drainage features. Services of these streams overwhelmingly affect the downstream water quality. These streams provide no habitat for well-balanced aquatic organisms, and therefore replacement of a defined stream channel is not a requirement of mitigation. The mitigation goals relate to physical stability and flood-prone area functions. Category 2 streams are also limited quality waters. However, they have a definable aquatic life expectation or restoration potential. Ohio EPA surveys found that aquatic life in these streams are very resilient and recover quickly from perturbations. Therefore, mitigation must include replacement with a stable channel capable of providing equivalent life functions. Mitigation goals relate to downstream water quality as well as aquatic life community integrity. Category 3 streams are general high-quality waters. These streams represent the primary restoration goal of Ohio water quality standards and the Federal Clean Water Act. They contain specific biological and habitat quality goals that mitigation must maintain. Mitigation includes stream channel stability, flood-prone area function, habitat quality, and riparian vegetation. Category 4 streams are exceptional high-quality waters. Mitigation goals must be sufficient to maintain potential to support these uses and demonstrate use continues to be supported. Mitigation standards must be sufficiently robust to meet goals for flood-prone area, habitat quality, riparian vegetation, and biological community integrity. This slide shows a table to represent the general mitigation goals based upon the tiered mitigation category. Category 1, stream mitigation, requires the maintenance, enhancement, or restoration of the impacted stream's function. Category 2 mitigation requires both function and form. Category 3 requires function, form, habitat, and ecological potential. And Category 4 mitigation requires all of the previous categories' goals, adding in ecological integrity. For stream impacts, there are 4 different types of compensatory mitigation, including on-site stream replacement or relocation, and restoration, enhancement, and preservation, which could occur on or off-site. Stream replacement incorporates activities of varying levels dependent on mitigation category, and stream relocation means to create a channel to convey the stream flows away from the natural or existing channel in order to facilitate development, alter hydrologic conditions, or otherwise cause a permanent abandonment of the existing channel from flowing water. Stream restoration means the implementation of stream channel or riparian buffer improvement activities for stream segments that fail to meet the goals for adjusted flood-prone area or adjusted habitat area. Stream enhancement means the implementation of stream channel or riparian buffer improvement activities for stream segments that are fully meeting the goals for adjusted flood-prone area or adjusted habitat area. And stream preservation means the protection of ecologically important stream segments in perpetuity through the implementation of appropriate legal mechanisms to prevent harm to the stream channel or associated riparian buffer. The first and preferred mitigation method is on-site replacement and relocation. For Category 1 streams, the mitigation goal is to solely mitigate the stream's function. For low gradient streams that have less than a 2% slope, mitigation must replace the functional flood-prone area. A defined stream channel is not a requirement. The adjusted flood-prone area of a stream is calculated as the sum of the 3 flood-prone sub-areas, low, intermediate, and high, which are shown on the illustration in the dark green color for low, orange for intermediate, and blue for high. The maximum bankful depth is the initial elevation that must be determined using surveyed bankful channel dimensions, regional curves, or by following a general equation for Ohio that is based on the stream's drainage area. This maximum bankful depth elevation is equal to the low flood-prone area. This elevation is multiplied by 1.5 to determine the intermediate elevation, and multiplied by 2.0 to determine the high flood-prone elevation. These three elevations are then used to make a planimetric determination based on topographic survey to produce an area in acres. The three area measurements are then summed and averaged to determine the final adjusted flood-prone area. Essentially, the adjusted flood-prone area is an average of the green, the orange, and the blue colored areas shown on the illustration. To meet the on-site mitigation requirements for Category 1 and 2 streams, the flood-prone area must equal or exceed the existing adjusted flood-prone area, or the equivalent to 30% of the target streamway area. The target streamway area is a calculation based off of the stream's drainage area and the stream's valley length. For Category 1 streams with high gradient of greater or equal to 2% slopes, mitigation must replace and establish a vertically and laterally stable channel. Channel cross-sections are proportioned consistent with Rosgen Type B channel for slopes 2 to 4% and Rosgen Type A channel for slopes greater than 4%. For the on-site mitigation for Category 2 streams, the mitigation goal is to mitigate the impacted stream's function and form. Therefore, a minimum channel length equal to or greater than the impacted stream must be replaced. This length requirement is in addition to the previous mitigation requirements that must equal or exceed the existing flood-prone area for low gradient streams or establish a stable channel with proper cross-sectional dimensions for high gradient streams. For Category 3 and 4 streams, the mitigation goal is to mitigate the stream's function, form, habitat, and ecology. This includes the appropriated bed form, meander pattern, longitudinal profile, flood-prone area, and vegetated riparian buffer to maintain or enhance water quality functions to maintain its beneficial use. Stream relocating involving Category 3 and 4 streams is considered a severe impact and avoidance is highly recommended. For compensatory mitigation design, the general mitigation goals discussed previously of function, form, habitat, and ecological integrity are expanded upon with this low gradient streams decision matrix. There's 4 columns for each of the mitigation categories listed along the top of the chart. The chart on the left shows the overall mitigation goals, and the chart on the right breaks down the minimum design criteria for the development of mitigation plans. The debits and credits for stream mitigation are calculated for two metrics: the adjusted flood-prone area, which, as previously discussed, is the average of the three flood-prone sub-areas of low, intermediate, and high, and the adjusted habitat area, which is a product of the stream channel area, the habitat index ratio, which is determined from the QHEI or HHEI score, and a condition factor score. This chart shows the relationship between QHEI scores and acreage adjustment based off of the habitat condition factor scoring category. These condition factors are the numbers shown that range from 0.4 for poor up to 1.2 for excellent. This is the simple equation for calculating debits. The resulting adjusted flood-prone area is subtracted from the initial flood-prone area to provide the total debits in acres. This table shows a breakdown of the credit-debit ratios. Mitigation categories 1 and 2 both have a 1-to-1 ratio. Category 3 has a 1.5-to-1 ratio and a 3-to-1 ratio for Category 4. The base debit calculation from the equation on the previous slide, AD, is multiplied by the mitigation category ratio to determine the credits needed. For example, if the base debit calculation is equal to 2.1 acres for the adjusted flood-prone area metric, and the impact is to a mitigation category 3 stream, 2.1 is multiplied by the 1.5 ratio to equal 3.15 acres of credit that is needed. Mitigation credits are required to be adjusted based on the watershed location for the compensatory mitigation relative to the impact location. For the previous example that required 3.15 acres of credit, say the mitigation site is located outside of the HUC 12 watershed but within the same HUC 8, this must be increased by 20%, which would total 3.78 acres. As a second example, if the mitigation site is located entirely outside of the HUC 8 watershed, an increase of 40% would total 4.41 acres. For credit accounting, one's eligibility for stream mitigation credits under the adjusted flood-prone area and adjusted aquatic habitat area metrics is determined. Credits are allocated for each of the mitigation credit types based off of the adjusted acreages and the condition improvements. There are metric tables on the next slides that break this credit accounting down further. Now for category 3 or 4 streams, the majority of credits must be generated through restoration or enhancement activities, meaning at least 51% of the credits. For category 1 or 2 streams, stream preservation can be considered an adequate method if the project is necessary to protect ecologically important downstream uses and the preserved stream segment has sufficient physical or ecological integrity to provide beneficial water quality or ecological function. These next few slides are a series of checklists to determine whether the resulting condition will be eligible for any credit towards the mitigation requirements. This first table is for the adjusted habitat area metric, broken down by mitigation category, applicability, and criterion for a checklist to determine applicable mitigation types and credit requirements. This table is for the adjusted flood-prone area metric for mitigation category 4 to determine the applicable mitigation types and resulting conditions for credit. This next table is a continuation of the previous adjusted flood-prone area metric for mitigation category 3 streams. The sensitive downstream use column refers to whether the downstream reach is mitigation category 3 or 4. Streams with sensitive downstream use requires a higher percentage of target streamway area. Lastly is the adjusted flood-prone area metric for mitigation category 1 and 2 streams and the mitigation credit applicability. For a category 2 stream that does not have a sensitive downstream use and the existing condition meets the 30% of target streamway area criterion, this is applicable for enhancement mitigation types if there is a positive increase in adjusted flood-prone area metric, that riparian vegetation is suitable, and it ensures vertical stability. And this slide concludes the presentation on stream mitigation methods under consideration for the state of Ohio.